era when I started in 1990. So from the 1990 era of traditional business to being a part of a tech company is a journey by itself. So I really appreciate what people like you have done in this country, and I think that will continue for times to come. Well, I think the whole idea here was I come here and share what PB Fintech has done when they started in 2008 and where we are today and what has been the entire journey. I presume with a lot of founders and early investors present here, it is important to learn lessons from a large tech company which, like Rajesh Agrawalji mentioned, started with support from one of the investors called Sanjeev Bikhchandani from Naukri.com. And from the early struggle to becoming a unicorn would be an interesting journey for all of you to learn, right? So it's a privilege for me to be here at Transform 15 among people who are building India's future and not merely discussing it, right? Whenever I meet founders, I am reminded of a simple truth. Every unicorn was once someone else's unreasonable idea. I remember when Yashish started, my founding chairman, Yashish Dahiya, he is based in London. He mentioned that in 2008, when he went to investors saying that I want to start an online insurance platform, there was so much reluctance. Bhai, insurance वैसे ही नहीं बिकता है, आपको online में बेचना है. So do you think this will really sell? He said, yes, sir, it will. And including Sanjeev Bikhchandani, when he was in his office, he said, आपने अपनी motor insurance policy कहाँ से खरीदी है? So he said, I bought it from this insurance company. So he took his policy, and within 15-20 minutes, he could get him varying quotes ranging from 30% price differential. And that instant decision of saying yes to Yashish obviously has made him one of the most wealthiest persons because he's the largest investor, in this group. So obviously an idea many believed would fail. 20 years ago, if someone had said Indians would buy insurance online, compare dozens of products digitally, most people would have smiled politely and changed their subject. Today, millions do exactly that, right? They compare products before they buy their, policy. So future never looks obvious when you're building it. It only looks inevitable to hindsight. Today, I don't want to talk about valuation. I think Rajesh Agrawalji very, very clearly mentioned he's been a bootstrapped company till his children came and said that we'll do this business differently. But I still, will continue to say people like Dhirubhai Ambani, Rajesh Agrawalji sitting here have taught us how to build businesses. Technology came much later. Unicorns happened much later. So because valuations fluctuate, businesses endure. The PB Fintech story, as I mentioned to you, we weren't trying to become a unicorn on day one, right? We weren't chasing headlines. We were solving only one simple problem. Consumers had no transparency. I remember when I bought my policy in 1990 from LIC, that was the only company which existed. All I was told was, इसमें tax बचेगा और आपका पैसा double हो जाएगा. I didn't understand how the पैसा will double, but the agent would come and explain to you in an Excel sheet that this is the money you will get. So buying insurance meant depending on whoever happened to sell this to you, right? And that is how you bought your policy, without understanding it. Today, market believes in transparency. People really want to know in depth, why are they buying the policy? Will the policy suit them and their family? And that is what Policybazaar has done all these years. Technology, won, but along with technology, the trust also won. Because there was a time when people never believed online will be successful. So, what is the big lesson? I have broken down the story of Policybazaar after discussing with Yashish and, Alok. What are the big lessons they have learned, right? I mean, I learned my own lessons while working for different BFSI organizations. I started with GE Capital. I worked with ICICI under Shikha Sharma. I spent 10 years with SBI Life as the executive director. So I have worked with large organizations playing large roles. So every startup begins with an idea, So don't build products, solve the pain. That's very important. I think the young lady entrepreneur sitting here was saying that she's building a big business. She strongly believed in her business. But obviously, she's feeling the pain of investors not trusting her, But I guess this will also go. As Rajesh Agrawalji said, that pain is a period which you go through when you start an organization. Customers never wake up wanting your product, right? They wake up wanting their problems to be solved. The greatest founders became obsessed with customer pain, not with their own solution. At PB Fintech, every innovation began with questions such as, why is insurance so confusing, even till date? Why are claims so stressful? You buy a policy, you go to a hospital, you get admitted, and 1,000 questions are asked you. Did you declare this in your policy when you bought a policy? When you want to get your claims passed, there is a fight between the hospital, the insurer, the TPA. So obviously there is lack of trust, lack of transparency. So why can't financial products be more transparent? Innovation is rarely about inventing something entirely new. People don't buy technology, people buy better outcomes, right? Which is what we have done all this while. We are not only a sales organization. If you see our ads, we have built claims officers in 235 cities, numbering to 1,000 people. These guys reach the hospital before, the policy holder, so that their claim process is completed. They don't go through the pain, as I just mentioned to you a little while ago, and everything is smooth for them. So when we sell a policy and we live with the customer till the policy term ends, and we continue to serve them. And that is what has made us what we are. Trust is your greatest competitive advantage, right? Every startup believes speed is the greatest strength. I disagree. Trust scales faster than technology. Technology can be copied, capital can be raised, talent can be hired. I agree with Rajesh Agrawalji. When I built my first organization, the first thing we did was getting the right people, traveling across, the country, nook and corner of the country, identifying the best people, because we believe it is the people who make the organization. Brand alone in isolation cannot do anything. It is brand and the people combination which builds organizations. So in financial services, customers don't merely buy products, right? They buy confidence. One claim settled successfully creates lifelong trust. One poor customer experience destroys years of brand building. That is what happens to most brands, right? Trust is not built through marketing, it is built through thousands of consistent decisions. What is the lesson 3? The lesson 3 was, scale doesn't come from working harder. It comes from building systems. Every founder is indispensable on day one. And if you are still indispensable, then there is a problem, right? After 10 years, you cannot remain indispensable. You have to build a team, you have to build systems that can run your organization and grow your organization, which was very beautifully explained by Rajesh Agrawalji, that it is his people whom he has trusted, and it's the people who have built the organization. And most successful organization, whether it is Zomato, any other unicorn, Policybazaar, have been built because they have trusted the team. They have trusted the people and got the right people to take decisions. Companies don't become unicorns because founders become superheroes. They become unicorns because founders create systems that outperform individuals. I think relevant point for you, ma'am, capital is fuel, not the destination, right? Every founder celebrates when funding round closes. They should actually become more disciplined the next morning, because the day money enters your bank account, it's the day accountability begins. And that's been very, very aptly explained by him a number of times. I think whenever he was asked a question, he went back and said, don't play around with the money which investors bring in with you. That's not free money. There was a time when young students used to pass out from IITs, come out with ideas, raise money, spend the money as if it is not their money, as if it is somebody else's money, and they go pauper. I have known startups which have raised 200 crores and within 3 years have wound up, without the responsibility of understanding that this money never belonged to them, So you don't build offices where paying 10 lakhs of rupees rent. You go and start your office in a garage, even if you have 100 crores in your pocket, till you really build, a reasonable organization and you have the right to go and spend that money, So I often say capital doesn't solve business problems. It only gives you the opportunity to solve them, At PB Fintech, every investment decision was guided by a few simple questions. Will this improve customer experience? Will this strengthen our technology or our people? Will it build capability that competitors cannot easily, replicate? And finally, if funding becomes difficult tomorrow, would we still make this investment today? So that you can sustain. The questions force clarity. For founders, treat investor money with the same care you would treat your family savings. Investors don't merely invest in your business plan, they invest in your judgment. And the judgment is revealed not when money is scarce, but when money is abundant. So the objective is not conserve every rupee. Objective is to ensure that every rupee creates disproportionate value, which is what you kept saying, that Dhirubhai Ambani doubled the money or returns money at every stage in life. Whether the share was 10 rupees or whether the share is 3,000 rupees, he always gave back money to people. Cash flow keeps you alive. Capital helps you to grow. Good governance earns you the right to raise capital again. Remember that, right? You're not here to come and go. You're not here to siphon money and run away. If you want to sustain a long-term business, you need to build that trust. Whenever I meet founders, I always believe every funding round goes through the lens of 5 C's. Have you understood your customer? Customer first. Have you understood capability? What is it required to build an organization? What technology are you putting in place? What kind of talent have you put in place? Do you have the intellectual property? What kind of culture have you built in your organization? If it is owner-driven, obviously, you need to be worried. But if it's a professional-driven organization, a person like Rajesh Agarwal ji, who comes from the traditional background, saying this in as many plain words is very, very, encouraging. And I would say it is the people who build the organization. Cash discipline. Extend your runway, don't assure the next round is guaranteed. So when you get your money, don't spend your money and think that next round mere paas aa jayega. There is no guarantee, right? Whatever money you have, first build business so that you can continue to attract investors. Credibility. I think transparent governance and honest communication with investors will build long-term trust. People could take money and stop talking. People take money, don't send the necessary updates and reports to the investor. Till the investor has to really ask them. Why are you waiting for the investors to ask you? At every stage, it is your responsibility to keep the investors informed. What was the journey you had, assumed? What is your journey, till date? And how do you propose to take this forward? If you're facing problems, if you're facing challenges, there are investors who are willing to listen to you and help you, right? Instead of going back and telling them, listen, all the money is gone, so, I need more money. The investor will never come back to you again, Lesson 4, I think India is the world's greatest startup opportunity. All of you will agree, right? 140 crore people. Today, sitting in this, standing here in front of you, I can tell you the opportunity of creating 100 unicorns is right in front of you. Because as an organization, we believe that with 150 crore people living in this country, with less than, 3 crore people who have bought an insurance policy, there are 30 crore families who are having the capacity to buy an insurance policy. Be it health, be it motor. Somewhere, I think the reach, somewhere the products that can target the segment is missing. So if all of you can put your minds together, what are the problems this country is facing? Number 1, financial literacy. I keep saying this across the world. Number 2, how do we build trust? Today, across the country, you will find financial services is the one area where people still don't trust you. How do we build awareness? What are the problems this country is going to face? Today, what we have become as a country, as a Bharat, is thanks to our young population, thanks to the growth we have seen all these years. But what are these problems we are going to face in future? Please understand, 2047, when we talk about Viksit Bharat, we are facing a situation of 50 crore senior citizens, right? How are you going to educate people today who are in their 40s to prepare for their future? If I don't have an health insurance, who's going to support me? Joint family system is eroding. Social security schemes are limited to people below poverty line. So if I don't have a health insurance policy when I'm old, who's going to fund me? Do I have the income to survive for the next 30 years? Today longevity is increasing, right? पहले लोग 60 साल के बाद 15 साल जीते थे, 18 साल जीते थे. आज लोग 25-30 साल जी रहे हैं. उस 25-30 साल को जीने के लिए आपके पास पैसा है? आपने अपनी सेविंग्स बनाई है? नहीं बनाई है. So these are points to ponder about, and these are the opportunities you see. Healthcare for senior citizens. A big demand, right? If somebody can start working on it today, what can I do for tomorrow's senior citizens? When they don't live with their family children, when they live alone, What support system can I create that can become a successful business model? Trust me, you can build a unicorn out of it. And of course, AI. AI's world, obviously is hitting all of us hard. I always believe AI will not take away jobs, right? AI will certainly not take away jobs, but AI will certainly impact people who don't learn and adopt AI. So most organizations should start enforcing the discipline of understanding AI. At Policybazaar, we employ 20,000 people, and we have decided to monitor usage of AI at the last mile. And the idea of monitoring is not to policing. The idea is to educate and encourage them so that they are prepared for the future. So obviously, 5 principles that I believe the founders should remember. Solve problems that are worth solving. Earn trust before, chasing scale. Start small. Believe that this business is successful before you, start scaling your business very high. Be obsessed. Be obsessed and be very obsessed over execution, not valuation. Don't run after valuation. Trust me, it is not worth it. Build leaders, not followers. You don't need followers, you need leaders who can help, your organization lead various, positions. Stay relentlessly customer-centric. Ultimately, the most important person is the customer. Remember that. It is customer who's going to make you big. It is the customer who's going to make you fail. Let me conclude. This lady is staring at me. I think she wants me to end, but don't worry. I'll just take 10 minutes. 5 minutes more. Sorry, my apologies. So let me conclude with one final thought. People often say, what does it take to build a unicorn? I believe they are asking a wrong question. What kind of company deserves to become a unicorn is the better question, right? Because unicorn status is an outcome. It is never a mission. The mission is creating value, improving lives, building trust, solving real-time problems. And if you do those things consistently, growth follows, investment follows, scale follows, and sometimes even unicorns will follow you, right? So India is entering perhaps the most exciting entrepreneurial decade in its history. You can't get a better environment than this country, right? Look at the digital public infrastructure. Look at what UPI has done. So today is the time, if you're thinking of an idea to start the business, you should start today. The founders sitting in the room today will build companies that will define India's economy in 2047. Some of those companies will become unicorns. A few may become decacorns. But the companies that history remembers will not simply be the most valuable. They will be the most impactful. What impact have you created in this country? Remember they say when you retire, when you leave an organization, people still remember you for the impact you have created. Not because you are occupying a position of chair. That time everybody feels that you are impactful. It's only after you leave what people say about you matters, right? So obviously, dream fearlessly, execute relentlessly, lead with integrity, and remember, ideas may start companies, leadership builds institutions. Thank you, and I wish every founder, every investor here for the courage to begin, the resilience to persist, and the wisdom to build something that truly matters. Thank you, and I look forward to interacting with all of you during the breaks. Thank you. Bye-bye.